Yay! Welcome. It's all in. It's Friday night. It's John and Ed. It's time to kick back, pour yourself a drink, and chill out.
Cheers, everybody. Thank F it's Friday, is all I can say.
Ooh, what a week that was.
Like they're not all. It just gets increasingly more mental.
It does. And a big shout out.
We say that every week, and every week it gets a bit more mental.
Big shout out to the chat room tonight. The troll room is packed. The Britmate was in before I was. So Britmate, DW, who else we got? Dreadeye and Julie, Evening Stars, and Madame, obviously. Nectaridus, Yorkshire Lad, hey up, how you all doing? Yep, doing good. Shalini, nice to see you. We'll see if we can get you sleeping before the night is out. Beats and tapes, yo. Who else we got?
Such a vote of confidence when your audience falls asleep.
Oh, but Shalini got here. It's past our bedtime and she's still here. That's good. Ray, hold the show. I haven't made my hot chocolate yet. Well, you better get on it, man. You better get on it. Good day. Nectaridus, cool opening vid. Russ in the tunnel. Yep, indeed. Tiana, how you doing? Tiana. Who else we got? Paul Armstrong. Good evening. Evening, Paul. It's up that to you. It's an early start. Don't worry about it, Tiana. I'll speak to you on the other channel. But yes, you're very welcome. And we will crack on with the show. Right, Ed? Where do we start? I don't
know, because my bookmarks for this week's show started getting bookmarked just after the end of last week's show. So I don't know. I mean, does the order even matter? It's insanity. I mean,
it doesn't really. Well, let's start at the beginning, shall we? It's always a good place to start. So we'll start at the beginning. We'll start talking about, and the title for this show, or the title for this thumbnail, was Clueless. And the question is, who is clueless? Because I'm not sure Trump knows what he's doing. He just seems to be jumping from one thing to the other, mate.
Yeah, I think he's not getting good advice from enough people, and he's got some people giving him actively bad advice, and there seem to be two factions in the White House at the moment.
Yeah.
You got, on the one side, you got the neocons, the Waltz, the Kellogg, the Rubio, that crowd. Mm-hmm. And behind them, evil witches like Newland. And on the other side, I think you've got J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard, Witkoff, who actually have their heads screwed on a bit better and have a bit more of a realistic grasp of what's going on. And I mean, personally, I was in agreement with Duran when they were saying that from the very start, as soon as he came in, Trump should have just said, look, this is not my war. We're done here. This is not going anywhere. You guys are losing. We've had enough of it. And I think he might be, because to me, that's still,
it's too late.
The best option.
It's too late now. It is the best option. And I've said it a number of times. He needs to turn the tap off. If he wants to save lives, he needs to turn the tap off. Because if he keeps feeding arms and ammunition and money to our friends in Ukraine, then all he's going to end up doing is killing more and more people. Because
do we have a slide about Mertz and the Taurus missiles?
No, I don't think we do, actually.
No, because that was one thing that did happen this week, which is going in the direction that you're talking about, which is that the Germans were refused permission by the Americans to send the Taurus missiles, their cruise missiles, to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Well,
I think it's sensible, because the way Zelensky is just now, he's going to use them because, the propaganda coming out of Ukraine is fine, because every side does propaganda, when it comes to war. And you have to appreciate that you're going to get it from both sides. But when you see things like, a devastating, high-profile drone attack, a massive drone attack on Kiev, and the headline is one person killed. You've got to think, was it that massive, or was it targeted at military and whatever installations?
Well, there was a lot of missiles and drones in Iskandar's, but from what I can tell, they were all targeted at military facilities. And the thing is that the Russians, unlike other people in the world, don't go out of their way to target civilians. I mean, we had that attack last week where they sent 2 Iskandars into a gathering, but there was Ukrainians kicking off about that, saying that the military chief had organized a military award ceremony in a civilian location.
He had, and he was told about it, and he was told not to do it, and he went ahead and did it. Now, the other thing that shows the difference between the Russian way of thinking and the American way of thinking to a degree is the Russians know that they have to live with these people once this is finished, and that's why the place isn't flat. I mean, look,
not just that.
Let me finish a little bit before.
Sorry.
Right. So, if we look at what's happening in the Middle East, right? The people that are flattening the Middle East don't want to live with the people that are getting flattened, right? And you can see that. And when you look back at what America's done in the past with the Gulf War, Afghanistan, whatever, they have no consequences with flattening places because they don't need to live with them. Even when NATO bombed Yugoslavia, right? They flattened it, and because they didn't think of the consequences of having to live with these people afterwards. And that's something I think that's missing from the American psyche, because they're so far away and are so insulated. They forget that in the future they might have to do deals with these people. I mean, look at Vietnam. They hammered it, and yet the Russians don't. The Russians know that they've got to live with these people, and that's why they do not flatten the entire country. They don't want to destroy the country because they know these people need to live, and they don't want to have to support them, once this is over.
Well, the thing is, it goes deeper than that, because it's not just about the Russians knowing that they've got to live with the Ukrainians. Fundamentally, a lot of Russians don't see a huge amount of difference between themselves and Ukrainians. I mean, 60, what is it, before the war, 60% of Ukrainians used Russian as their first language.
Yeah, the East Ukraine as
Russian Orthodox Church and stuff. There's the Western. I mean, you've got the Western area around Lvov, where you have all the Banderites and the people that really have a visceral hatred of Russians.
They're Polish.
Well, and Romanians and Hungarians, it's a mishmash.
It is a mishmash. But everything, Kiev and West is definitely not Russian, and that's Putin has no interest in that.
Well, Kiev. I mean, Kiev is it's one of the first Russian cities. To say that Kiev is not Russian, it'd be like saying that.
Well, yeah, but Kiev was the last outpost in Europe.
Moscow's not Russian.
No, Kiev was the last kind of outpost in Europe, right? If you look at it from Kiev was on the cusp of really Asia. The rest of Ukraine is purely Russian, But apart from that, I think
in terms of your question, actually, I think Zelensky is the clueless one.
Yeah,
because Trump he vacillates, but he does that. Sometimes Trump gives the impression of agreeing with whoever it was that he last spoke to. But the fact that the Americans have said to the Germans, no, you can't send Taurus missiles to Ukraine, that is more of a hard signal than anything that Trump is actually saying in the moment. And you can tell, I mean, just that interview when Zelensky kind of shot himself in the foot in the White House by going in there and acting like an entitled little prick. I mean, I don't know how anyone tolerates him, but I've long thought that.
I think Zelensky to give him some slack, and he maybe doesn't deserve it, but I think the Democrats set him up for that meeting.
I think he's been set up by a lot of people.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, I think the Democrats pushed his buttons before he went in to see Trump, and
probably
that was cruel in the extreme, because They're not just playing with one man; they're playing with the lives of a nation. And
Yeah.
that's sick. That's sick.
Well, this is the thing that always gets me about this conflict is that everyone's like, we stand with Ukraine and Ukraine's really important. They don't give a shit about Ukraine. They want to hurt Russia, and they don't care if in the whole of Ukraine is one giant graveyard.
Yeah.
As long as they can hurt Russia, and it's despicable. And our government is amongst the worst.
Yes, and we'll get onto our government, don't you worry. So, I'm not happy with the Russian strikes on Kyiv. Not necessary and very bad timing. Very bad timing. Vladimir, stop. 5,000 soldiers a week are dying. Let's get the peace deal done. That's
It's not
not
the Russians that are interfering with the peace deal.
That's not a strong statement coming from the leader of the free world, is it? What do you think?
But
it doesn't inspire confidence.
Well, it depends on what sort of. I just think with Trump is you just don't know with him sometimes. And at the start of his presidency, he was making all the right kind of noises. He now seems to be listening more to the Kellogg-Rubio faction, but also it could be said that he's perhaps giving them enough rope to hang themselves with and actually making it completely obvious to the world that it's not the Russians that are interfering with peace, it's the Ukrainians who are not interested and the Europeans who are blocking any attempts at peace. And maybe Trump just needs to maneuver things into such a way that, because the latest offer that the Americans presented to the Russians and the Ukrainians has pretty much been this. They didn't say it in so many words, but effectively they're saying, look, this is our final offer. And Trump himself has said, I've got a timetable and we need to focus on other things.
Well, one of those other things being tariffs, which China is now raking him over the coals over because China's called his bluff and beaten him down, We've found out he doesn't have the cards, as you said last week. The cards are made in China.
Pretty much. And I mean, at least we've got a US leader that is prepared to back down. And I mean, okay, some people might think that that's weakness, and it's more a sign of bad initial decision making and bad advice.
Yeah. And this actually goes back to what you said earlier, Ed, when you said that, Trump, it wasn't Trump's war and, he should have distanced himself from it. He should have done that at the very start. It's now too late because this is his war now, because he turned the tap off at one point for a couple of days and then he turned it back on. So it's his war. It's in his ballpark. If he wants to get a grip on it, I think what he needs to do is turn the tap off now, and then he can walk away. But he can't do this. He can't keep drip feeding them, keeping them on life support, which all that's happening is it's allowing, the Russians to go to town on them,
Yeah, but it's also, you have to take into account the fact that US foreign policy is being captured by neocons since the late 90s. I mean, since the days of Richard Pearl and the Project for a New American Century. That is the mentality of people who, that's the school that Victoria Nuland comes from. It's where Waltz and Rubio are coming from. And that is a very difficult juggernaut to kind of slow down or stop. And those crazy people have got no reverse gear, as Alexander Mercouris constantly says. Whereas Trump, fortunately, does seem to have a bit of a reverse gear, which is much better than the thing about this whole Russia-Ukraine thing that I can't. It's like all of our own warmongers that we have in Britain. I'm sorry, are you actually trying to actively start World War III with the Russians? I mean, are you completely insane?
I asked the guy that today. I said, what's your option then? Do you want to start World War III? Because that's all unless Trump turns the money off and Europe's starting to back down. We'll come to that a little bit later when we start discussing the UK. This is one of yours you brought up. Pete Hegseth helped convince Trump not to attack Iran's nuclear facilities, which was sensible because Iran has been very straightforward in saying that they're not going for nuclear weapons. I believe them, for whatever reason, I believe them. They haven't really been found to be lying about anything, Iran. And Russia, Putin himself is very, very strong in non-proliferation. And he's written it into all the deals that he's made with all the BRICS countries. So I believe that they're not going for a bomb, and because the last thing you need is a bomb in the Middle East, because nobody in the Middle East technically has a nuke. Certain country we know does, but nobody technically has. You know what I mean? But yeah,
I mean, the thing about Iran, they want to do business. They want. I mean, they're talking about pipelines and exports, and I mean, China. The thing is that China gets a vast amount of oil from Iran, and so China has an active interest in making sure that nothing happens. The Russians and the Iranians have just signed a massive cooperation agreement, which has. I mean, there's no alliance there, but it does have security-related stuff in it.
Yeah.
And the Russians have been busy helping the Iranians beef up their air defenses and stuff like that. I mean, Iran is no Iraq or Syria or Yemen. It's. I mean, they'll cut the head off anyone that tries to invade. Frankly.
Yeah.
But what's more telling about this story is how suddenly another Signal chat is being used to try and discredit these people, which does make you wonder about Signal, frankly, because I always thought Signal was one of the more secure messaging apps, but
I don't.
Maybe not. And
I'm not sure. I don't think there is such a thing as a secure messaging app anymore. Not for civilian use or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Hegseth, it doesn't really have the job qualifications to take on a role like Secretary of Defense. Now, people think that the Secretary of Defense has to be some general with lots of military experience, but actually that's not true at all, because the Secretary of Defense needs to be a bloody good manager.
Needs to be a
and if you look at the guy that the Russians have got in Hegseth's role, what's his name, Gerasimov?
Yeah,
I don't even think he had a military background. He comes from he comes from the Russian industrial side of things. I think it might be the military industrial complex side of things. But his main thing is not that he's a soldier, it's that he's a manager.
Yeah. Right, shall we move away from this, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the Pope has popped. So unfortunately, our Holy Father, whatever his name is, Francis, well, that was his chosen name, wasn't it? So he has succumbed to age and died earlier on this week. Yeah, it seems like it was ages ago. It seems like ages ago. But anyway,
some people were saying that he died ages ago, and they've just announced it.
Yeah, but there was
photos of people that say stuff like that.
There was, I mean, did JD not go and see him the night before?
Well, yeah, JD Vance saw him, so everyone's been making jokes about how listing out the people that they want JD Vance to go and see.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, well, I must admit, I've been part of that teasing. People have said things about JD Vance, and I'm saying, are you sure you really want JD to come and visit you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's the Pope is normally almost always an elderly cardinal. Yeah. And so they don't necessarily live a massively long time. Yeah. The current Pope, in my opinion, did an awful lot of damage to the Catholic Church. And now I'm not a Catholic, but at the same time, when you listen to what devout Catholics have to say about him, and the way he excommunicated Archbishop Vigano, who would have been a fantastic Pope. I'd love it if Vigano was made Pope. That would be so cool.
I'm not up on cardinals and who's in the run for the Pope. Pardon me.
Well, technically speaking, I mean, the fact that it's a cardinal isn't necessarily doctrinal. That in theory, any male Catholic can become pope. You don't have to be a cardinal, but obviously they've put conventions and customs and stuff in place where we'll now have the conclave where all the cardinals get locked into a big room and they're not allowed to come out until they've chosen a pope.
Yeah.
And then we have the black or the white smoke. And we'll probably get a comment from
we'll
David Lammy claiming that
no, don't say it. Don't say it. We'll go into that later.
No, right. Okay. Sorry.
So Cellini says, absolutely disgusting. Francis was not a man of God. And Nick Teredas points out he was the first Jesuit to be a pope. I'll be honest, what's the difference between a Jesuit and I'm not trying to offend anyone. What's the difference between a Jesuit and a Catholic? I really don't know. Do you know, Ed?
Well, the Jesuits are an order. I think it was Loyola. He basically was they're like warrior Catholics. I think they're an order of people that took the faith more seriously, but also were prepared to do things outside of the faith. Well, not outside of the faith, but kind of bend the rules a little bit to achieve their aims, sort of mentality. And that's, I'm not an expert on Catholicism.
Nick Teredas says that the Jesuits are the CIA and special ops guys of the church.
Well, that's basically it. Yeah, I mean that's.
I never expected a
describing
Spanish Inquisition. Our 2 chief weapons are fear, surprise, and enormous. Our 3 chief weapons are.
And
anyway.
they're also not without their controversy. That's the thing. This is why this is the first Jesuit pope, because even within the Catholic Church, there's always been a certain level of suspicion about the Jesuits because they operate in secret and they have their own set of rules that they seem to follow that don't necessarily match up with the rules that other Catholics follow.
So talking about rules, right? You found a strange rule earlier on, didn't you?
This is probably my favorite story of the week, which is there is a special dead Pope hammer that they have to hit the dead Pope with on the head 3 times to make sure he's actually dead. And it's a nasty looking thing too.
Well, yeah, as all day I have had the Beatles' Maxwell Silver hammer going off in my head all day. Bang bang goes Maxwell's. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, it's obviously some pope or another decided to try and fake a death at some point, and they decide, no, it doesn't. Don't start, Espresso. Do not start this whole nonsense. That's pooled blood. The guy obviously died on his left-hand side. The blood pooled, and that's what happens. So just drop it. It's not a conspiracy. It's just stupidity on the behalf of the internets.
If you want conspiracies, go back through our archive and have a look at the show the rabbit hole show that we did on Pope John Paul I.
Did we not do 2 on popes? There was that many.
I think we did a Vatican rabbit hole and we did a Pope John Paul I rabbit hole. Yeah. And that is proper. There's all sorts of dark stuff relating to the Vatican Bank and. Yeah. Right.
Let's get away from the dead Pope and let's move on to brain death. So because this guy's suffering from it. So what the hell is going on? At one point, solar energy is the future, and Labour now want to dim the sun. Now I understand that what they want to do is they want to put something on top of already existing clouds. So this isn't cloud seeding, because cloud seeding makes clouds release their water and then dissipate. And cloud seeding was used quite effectively during the Olympics in China because they broke up the clouds and got rid of them. Now, what Labour want to do is put some sort of reflective material on top of the clouds that's going to sit there and bounce more of the sunlight back into space. That doesn't seem like a good idea.
Well, I have a pet theory about this, which is that when Trump cut a lot of NOAA's climate funding, suddenly the skies over the United Kingdom, we started seeing blue skies and little white fluffy clouds again. And I think that essentially they're trying to get the money from somewhere else, and now it's got to come from the British government, and it's going to go on the books. So they have to actually admit that they've been doing what they've been doing for the last 30 years. But at the same time as all of this, they want to start plastering the whole country with solar panels. So we've got the same bloke saying we're going to try and manage solar radiation. And at the same time, I mean, what's his face from it's called geoengineeringwatch.org. Dane Wigington. He has this off-grid farmhouse in the US, and he was like an engineer that used to work on alternative technology. So he had wind and solar and everything else. And he first started noticing the stuff in the sky because it massively dropped the performance of his solar panels. So we have an idiotic government who at the same time wants to start relying on solar power, is also going to dim the sun. You just couldn't. I mean,
the skies have been beautiful up here for most of the year, which is unprecedented. Normally we get very grey skies through winter, and usually it starts to break up about the end of March. But February, March was exceptional. You know, there was a couple of dull weeks, but generally we've had exceptional weather. Can't complain at all.
It's been the same down here.
Blue and little fluffy clouds, just like a painting.
Absolutely. And I suspect now we're going to go back to nasty milky white crap again.
I'll give you a hint. See if you go on the satellite, the weather satellite, and have a look at what's coming in from the Atlantic. That'll pretty much tell you what the weather's going to be like tomorrow. Right, moving on. No, not moving on, because you gave me this one. Adam Brimson said if dimming the sun is a solution, then solar energy isn't. I've got a lot of time for Adam. He's fairly sensible. We can't have it both ways.
He's a good artist as well.
Yeah, net zero is well, maybe. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, because obviously this is YouTube. But this guy Chris, whose flag and bio gives it away, right? But this guy goes, the key is control. If we can switch this on and off like a light switch, then we can switch it on when we want energy and switch it off when we want to cool the planet down. What a complete and utter mental defective we have there. I'm sorry. There's no other way to describe that person.
There really isn't. You can't. And as you say, the flag, I mean, flags and bios are always a dead giveaway, especially that one. But it shows you the level of logic or lack of logic that these people have, that they will just lap up whatever the system tells them. And if the BBC says it's a good idea and comes up with some convoluted nonsense, then there's a certain segment of the population that will just buy into it without any critical thinking or anything like that. Yeah, this is a good one.
See, I believe this is straight from a WEF meeting. Right, next question. Someone posted this and said, who's the most stupid Labour MP? And I started looking, I was about to just shout out Lammy, right? And then I started looking and thinking, there's actually candidates in there, you know,
you can't. It would be really. I couldn't pick any of them that I'd want to have on a quiz game show.
Oh no! If you were picking anyone for like say you were playing five-a-side, you couldn't even consider picking any of them, could you?
I mean, it's just varying degrees of dumb.
Yeah, it is. And then speaking of dumb, there's the Labour front bench. Boning up on what they have to learn for the next Prime Minister's questions.
How to do maths good.
Lammy behind the times as always. Right, moving on. So, single-sex loos in schools are set to cost the taxpayer millions. So, I don't understand this. What did we do? Did we change all the did we change all the toilets to become unisex on a whim?
I think they must have done. I haven't been at school in years, but
And now they're going to have to change them all
certainly
back because of all the the new legislation or all the new
And I
ruling.
mean, when you hear some of the stories that come out of schools of like girls afraid to go to the loo and stuff like that, I mean, it's obviously we have to be really careful what we say on YouTube, but the whole thing is completely mental, and we've had to have a judge point out basic biology. And a certain community, I mean, there's one particular member of the trans community that has been melting down now for about 5 days.
Jonathan?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just seriously. I mean, there was one of her tweets earlier in the week was, I'm pretty sure I'd pass a cheek swab test, but don't ask me to have a period.
Oh, that tweets, that's in here. It's in here.
Is it?
Yeah.
I missed, sorry.
It's in here. Good God.
I thought that might be one of the ones that you pulled out.
Well, no, I didn't, because it's a biological fact, actually, and he's completely wrong. George Galloway, on this occasion, one has to agree with him, doesn't he? Haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Galloway is that, love him or hate him, he's actually one of the few honest politicians that have got, he's got some beliefs, he's got brains, he knows what he stands for, and you can agree with him or disagree with him. But recently I found myself in agreement with him more often than not on a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I agree with him on that one, that Scotland would be far better off if every single one of these losers, liars, woman-denying woke wasters disappeared from public life forever. I mean, that just applies to pretty much every politician in the UK.
Yeah, well, it pretty much
With few
does,
except, but not many.
There aren't many politicians that I would trust. In fact, I don't think there's any I would trust, not even Rupert Lowe. I mean, he seems like he's in the right direction
I find his views on the Middle East.
Yeah, well, see, I mean, everybody's got their faults, haven't they? Right. Anyway, moving on. The Home Office. Is it just me, or does anyone find the Home Office tweets incredibly creepy ever since Labour came into power? They're like a subtext of threaten. They're threatening you. There's this subtext underneath it that's very 1984 or Brave New World. Do as we say, or
their graphics.
You're getting it. Yeah, look at them.
Yeah, the graphics have a very 1984-y, technocratic, authoritarian.
Yeah.
Do as we say or else.
Yeah,
kind of vibe to them. I mean, it's a reflection of the Prime Minister.
What's the circle with the squiggly line across it? I mean, what's all that about on what looks like some kind of icon? They're just creepy. They're creepy as hell now. But this is us back to treat the symptom and not the disease. We're introducing our toughest measures yet to prevent children from knife-related content online. Yeah, it's okay. So you're going to... good grief, have you ever seen Tom and Jerry? Did you ever watch Tom and Jerry when you were a child? Did you ever watch...
Exactly.
Did you ever watch Disney movies? Disney fairy tales? Did you ever watch them when you were a child? Nowadays, people would... I'm surprised they're still available. I'm surprised they're not banned. I mean, Bambi. I went to see Bambi as a 4-year-old. I was traumatized.
Well, we banned guns in the 90s, and criminals still get access to them and still use them. And it's, as you say, they're treating the symptoms, not the cause.
Thank you, Nick.
Which is the standard. I mean, that's how the medical profession. Oh, exactly. Donation.
No, it was. He's clarified it's a Japanese. It's some kind of ninja combat knife or something with a prohibition sign over it. Yeah, it's so freaking obvious that it really jumps out at you.
But they do nothing to solve the underlying social issues.
Exactly.
And actually, anyone who does try and address the underlying social issues gets called a far-right extremist and gets locked up if they're not careful.
Yeah, and people that pander to this continued, it's not the person who did it's fault, it's the fact that he was able to get something to do it with. People that pander to that, like the makers of things like abduction and stuff like that, they get lauded,
It's completely crazy.
That is crazy.
And more to the point, it's damaging for society.
Mm-hmm.
This is what irritates me the most about this stuff, is that they couch it in terms like they actually know what they're doing and they're trying to do good for society. And it's obvious to anyone with even a modicum of intelligence that it's not going to have any effect at all, apart from allow more heavy-handed policing and more laws and targeting the wrong people. I mean, we've got people, knife-wielding maniacs, that get let out. Meanwhile, we have people continuously locked up for social media posts. I mean, it's just bonkers.
It's crazy. Yeah, we'll let people out from doing serious physical harm to people. We'll let them out early so as we can lock up people for social media posts.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, who even runs a country like that? Well, we know who. That's a rhetorical question, obviously. But it just can't. I don't know. It just leaves you speechless sometimes.
Right, as one of yours, you brought this one up. I have
Rhino.
Mixed feelings about this guy because I consider him a bit of a fraud. In that he seemed to do well with the diesel thing, and he's been trading on it ever since, but never actually done anything after that.
The thing about Rhino is that at the very start of the Rona, he was one of the people who was doing his best. I mean, he was doing interviews with people that nobody would interview. He was getting a name for himself. And yes, there was issues with donations and his mortgage, and I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I'm not necessarily convinced that he's as guilty as some segments and potentially as I thought he was as well when that whole story broke. But that's beside the point. He hasn't done anything to warrant the kind of jail term that he's getting. And Germany is turning into a really scary place again.
Yeah, it is.
And I just don't. I mean, there should be such a thing as justice, and what's happened to Reiner just doesn't strike me as being just or fair or anything else.
It certainly doesn't.
And I mean, he's getting on. He's not a young man anymore. And surely, if it's financial stuff, that doesn't warrant jail time. I mean, okay, sue him, take away assets, do things that don't involve sticking him in a prison cell. But it just seems like the German government's out to get him.
I've never quite understood, white collar crime, right? Because that's what effectively we're talking about here is white collar crime, right? So what you're doing is you're putting really smart people into prison with really dumb people who will probably do things that they want them to do once they get out. You know what I mean? It's like building a criminal enterprise. It's like introducing smart, criminal-minded people to actual criminals who will actually be the muscle. It's like a breeding ground for criminality, is it not?
Unless they have Reiner in isolation because they don't want him to talk to anyone.
Yeah,
or they have special prisons that they put.
That's against your human rights. And I don't know how they get away with it. Look at Tommy Robinson. He's in solitary. For what? Because they don't want him to talk to people.
Well, that's the thing. And at the same time, they're all talking about freedom of speech and democracy. And,
it's a joke. It's like exactly like Aldous Huxley said. He said everything will look as if it's just going along as normal, the judiciary, the police, the government, but underneath it all, they'll be running things exactly how they want it to run, and that's what they're doing. Because that's totally against your human rights to be held in solitary for no good reason. It's a cruel and unnatural punishment. It's out of order. I don't like Tommy Robinson, but you don't do that to people if you're going to purport to be a civilized nation.
Precisely. Absolutely. And that's really what it comes down to, is the hypocrisy of Starmer sitting in the White House and saying how proud he is of our tradition of freedom of speech.
Yeah.
And at the same time, he's got people locked up for saying things on Twitter that they delete a few hours later and were said in the heat of the moment. And
let's face it,
stuff
wasn't an instruction, it was an opinion.
Absolutely. And it's when there's real criminals. I mean, if you look at all of the incidents in Germany of vehicles ramming into Christmas markets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The point is that European societies have got bigger problems than Lucy Connolly and Rainer Fulmick.
Much bigger problems.
I mean, there's a Belgian guy called Dries van Langhoven who's being prosecuted in Belgium on similarly idiotic grounds. It's just barking mad.
That is. It's crazy.
And then
it's
when
crazy.
you see Elon...
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, Musk posted a tweet earlier in the week about how the biggest long con that the left pulled was having all of the judiciary infiltrated. And it's actually, you can see that all the way around the world. It's even happening in places like Brazil.
Yeah.
It's happening in the US, where you have activist judges trying to get in the way of Trump's agenda.
One just got arrested. One just got arrested for harboring a criminal gang in his house.
And there was another one that was this lady judge that was arrested today, not long before he came on air, who actually helped a migrant that had a deportation order on him escape from the courthouse physically. And so got arrested by the FBI. So the West is crazy, and at the same time they're trying to moralize Russia and China about how Putin's an autocrat and Xi is a dictator and all this kind of stuff. And you have arguably more freedom in Russia. I actually found out today that's
what I was going to say, because we're castigating Russia for locking up people for being journalists, and yet they've locked up less than 10% of the people we've locked up for saying naughty words on social media.
Absolutely, and most of the so-called journalists that the Russians have arrested were blatantly Western spies.
Yeah, I know.
Literally.
I'm going to nowhere. I'm going to absolutely nowhere in the far east of Russia, and I'm going to take photographs of the only military installation for something like 1,200 square miles. But I'm just a journalist.
Or going to the Urals and to some of these industrial towns and sitting in cafes and asking blatantly ridiculous questions about the operations of the plants and stuff. I mean,
I know. I sound like
let's move on.
We sound like Russian apologists. We're going to get castigated for this. And yet we're not Russian apologists, because Russia's not perfect. Putin's not a good guy. But he's like every other politician, very suspect, And you know what? He's probably slightly better than some of the ones that we've got running our own countries.
Exactly. This is, if you look at Xi and you look at Putin and you look at Lukashenko in Belarus, are they angels? No. Do they probably have skeletons in their closet? Yeah. Do they give a shit about their country? Are they actively trying to do what's best for the country? Yes.
Yeah,
and obviously they will probably profit out of it themselves. But I don't know, it goes back to a conversation that you and I have had on a number of different occasions about this whole concept of a benign dictator.
Yes.
Or benevolent dictator. And how that actually in some cases is preferable to a parliament full of useless, corrupt clowns like we've got in most Western countries.
Yep. Yeah, I know, it's unfortunate. Right, moving on. Natalie Wintel's here. This is an actual caption from the Daily Mail describing Natalie. Or should I say the Daily Fail. They say, dress for the job you want. Apparently, freshly minted White House correspondent Natalie Winters wants to be a hostess at Hooters. I don't understand where does that vitriol come from? Because she looks to me to be like a perfectly presentable young lady. I don't see the problem.
She co-hosts The War Room with Steve Bannon.
Yeah, I don't see the problem in her appearance.
I mean, ultimately, yeah, she's an attractive young lady, but why just because of that fact they have to make fun of? Because the Daily Mail have written some really nasty articles about her. But when you actually listen to her, she asks good questions. I think the mainstream media are basically butthurt that when Trump came in, they changed how the selection of journalists for the White House press pool was assembled.
Yes.
And they used to have some committee that I can't remember, but it was actually made up of the journalists themselves. And the White House was like, nope, we're deciding who's in the press pool. And so they've given some places to the new media.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair enough. I mean, the White House should be able to decide which journalists. And okay, maybe she's pretty and maybe she doesn't hide the fact. But she's also a good journalist.
Why should she? Right, moving on. Speaking about not being pretty and not hiding the fact, here's Mr. Macron. A little patisserie. President Macron reacted to massive Russian attack on Ukraine. Remember the massive Russian attack that killed between 1 and 9 apparently. Said that while Putin says to the whole world, I want peace, he continues to bomb Ukraine. The only thing to do is for President Putin to finally stop lying, and America's anger must be directed at them. Right. So he's not, they've suddenly started to realize that if America's not on the side of Europe, there's nothing Europe can actually do. You can't do anything. They don't have the command and control systems to do this. They can't pull it all together. That's the problem, because everything ran through the US. Everything was coordinated by the US military. Yeah. And if you pull that out, it's going to take 5 to 10 years to put together a working communication system for the European armies to manage to talk to each other. They can't even talk to themselves the way things are going.
Exactly. It's on every level, because the only reason that Ukraine can fire missiles into Russia is because of targeting data that the Americans have to give them, because GPS doesn't work in Russia.
No.
Europeans don't. They don't have the heavy industry. This whole notion that you can take a Volkswagen car a Volkswagen factory that's currently producing VW Golfs and suddenly repurpose that so it starts producing tanks.
Can't do that.
It's a nonsense. I mean, back in the 1920s and 30s and 40s, when arguably these factories were simpler places. It's like you have a Model T production line. That was relatively easier to retool. But now the equipment that produces the cars, you've got the robots, and it's all very specific to the vehicles being built. I mean, it's difficult. You couldn't take a Volkswagen Golf assembly line and suddenly start producing Land Rovers on it.
I know.
And it's just this European impotence, and
yeah.
I mean, it's just the fact that they're not willing to even talk to the Russians, because the Russians are like, look, the Russians have never said they don't want to talk to anyone. It's the Europeans that said we're not talking to the Russians.
Yeah. And it's Britain that's still fucking stirring it.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's plenty of articles that Kit Clarenberg and people like that have come out with this week talking about how Britain was completely wrapped up in the whole Kursk disaster and the Bryansk as well. And that a lot of the catastrophically bad Ukrainian military decisions have actually come out of the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which gives you a lot of hope when our own government wants to start sending troops into Ukraine. I mean, they've even been rolling back from that as well.
Yeah, they have. Proud to join the outstanding crew of the HMS Prince of Wales today as our carrier strike group assembles for its 8-month deployment. How long before it breaks down? How long?
I was thinking exactly that. I'm amazed that they actually managed to get the bloody thing out of port.
Keir Starmer, national security is the foundation of my government's plan for change. Fuck off, Keith. You know, you keep mentioning this plan for change, but you just dance around the subject. What exactly is the plan, you know? And anyway, you have basically got the entire fucking Royal Navy on one ship now because everybody's leaving. You know, everybody is leaving.
Yep.
I mean,
despite
I think
the fact that they've increased salaries and stuff.
Yeah. It's just
and
a
also
joke.
All the planes on that ship are American.
For the F-35s, right? So we've had 12 delivered out of 64 ordered. Well, we've had. Right, hold on. Yeah, but hold on. It's better than that. You know the full story here, right? We ordered 64 F-35 Bs, right? Well, we're down to 63 straight away because we lost one. One of them crashed in training over in the States, so that's us down to 63. Now, we then allocate 4 for training that are permanently based in the States, right? So we can't use them. We then have the maintenance schedule on these things is horrendous, right? It's horrendous. And we can't maintain them when it comes to major service. They've either got to go back to America or go to the US base in Italy for service, right? So you've got to take a third of them offline because they'll be on rotation. So that's us down to, what are we down to now? That's us down to about, 36 or something. And then it just keeps getting, well, we've only got 12, remember? And it gets better because we didn't order the more carrier friendly C variant, which has slightly bigger wings to allow you to land at a slow speed, has a beefed up suspension to take the arrestor wire, right? And and we didn't order planes separate for the Navy and the Air Force. We are sharing them, right? So of the planes we have, we've got about 4 available for the Prince of Wales, 4 for the other aircraft carrier, and 4 left for the UK for air defence.
And those things would last. I mean, if you look at some of the drone swarms, I mean, some of the videos, I realize they're propaganda videos that the Chinese government puts out.
Yeah.
But, I mean, both the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians have built missiles specifically to kill aircraft carriers. That is literally their only function, is to send those expensive hunks of junk to the bottom of the sea. And the thing with an aircraft carrier is that you don't even have to sink it. You just have to make the flight deck completely unusable.
This actually hurts me physically. I feel the pain here. I mean, I grew up effectively in the Navy. You know, my dad was in the Navy. We lived in Navy bases. We were always in Navy bases. My parents socialized with Navy people all the time. I went to school and service schools. I lived in dockyards, and it's like, this hurts me because the Navy is a shadow of what it was. And it was a good life.
It's not even a shadow.
It was a good life. Well, I mean, I remember going to the NAFI for sweeties and things. It was brilliant. We even had our own pass to get into the Navy base in Hong Kong because I was at secondary school, so I was allowed my own pass. So I could go in and out the Navy base whenever I wanted. It's fucking brilliant.
And I think, I mean, ultimately, the armed forces, they have their role. But when you have successive governments that are run, I mean, they've done to the armed forces what they've done to the country. And it's decades and decades of the most appallingly awful political leadership that you could possibly imagine. I mean, they don't. It's actually hard to put a number on just how awful the UK political class it has been for at least 50 years. And I mean, I know people eulogize and lionize Thatcher, but she did masses of harm to the country. Tony Blair did masses of harm to the country. And we're now the chickens are coming home to roost.
You know,
and at the same time, we've got probably the worst government we've had since the end of the Second World War.
Yeah, you're quite right, because although at the time the Falklands seemed like a fantastic recovery, and take back, I think we were like this close to blowing it. If things had gone slightly awry, the whole thing would have been a wipeout.
Well, we were lucky that Thatcher had the relationship with Reagan that she did, and that the Americans didn't get in the way. The whole fleet had to be refueled halfway across the Atlantic by Americans.
The US offered the use of a carrier, and we fucking knocked it back because of stupid British pride. They offered the use of an aircraft carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And that would have meant total air superiority. You wouldn't have had any of our ships sunk. We would have had total air superiority, and it would have been a no-brainer to take the islands back.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But it was not, I mean, to be honest, the country was lucky it didn't turn into another Suez moment.
Yeah. Of course, we didn't have the support of the Americans then. That's why
precisely.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, moving on. Keir Starmer may abandon plan to send UK troops to Ukraine as it's too risky. You think? He has no intention. He has no intention. This was all bluster and bravado.
Yeah, I mean, even the British and French planters have, what is it, a reassurance force in Ukraine? It's called the tripwire.
Yeah.
The whole point was to get the Russians to attack them so they could then go crying to the Americans, invoke Article 5, and start World War III. I mean...
And the Americans aren't playing. They're not playing ball.
No. And that's, I mean, credit to Trump. Yeah. At least we now have someone in the White House that doesn't want to blow up the whole bloody world.
Yeah. The Telegraph, soldiers quit in thousands despite Labour's pay rise. The armed forces are shrinking despite a 6% increase and retention payment. That you mentioned that earlier. So that is that doesn't bode well. I mean, you can understand why, because if you were in the services with all this bluster and bravado about starting a stupid war against Russia of all places, why would you? Why would you? You know. And
well, that's the thing. But I mean, I have a friend, just on the subject of the soldiers quitting. I have a friend whose daughter is dating a soldier, and he's actually thinking of leaving. But he's also said that they haven't even fired a weapon in like 12 months or something, or longer.
Oh, because of cutbacks.
Well, because it's all being shipped off to Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah.
And I will point out, John, did we have to have two pictures of Keir Starmer? I mean, isn't one picture of Keir Starmer enough in a slide?
Is it just me, or is that a dead ringer for Keir Starmer?
I'm honestly, I can't tell the difference. I mean, maybe the battle dress and the dreadlocks, possibly, eyes. But it's crazy eyes. Absolutely.
Anyway,
and also that kind of that ugly, angry, scrunched up mouth.
Yeah. Right. back to the rest of the world, and another war that's about to kick off. So India's cut the flow of water off to Pakistan, depriving Pakistan of 80% of its water needs. Because, and let's be honest here, Indians and Pakistanis do not like each other. In fact, I would go as far as to say they detest each other and loathe each other.
Oh, they've had, I mean, if you look at what happened when partition occurred, and India and Pakistan and Bangladesh were all created, the massacres and the pogroms and the number of people that died. Yep. But I mean, this damn story, essentially where it started was that 26, I believe, Hindu tourists in Pakistan were murdered in cold blood, to the point that the attackers actually asked them for ID and then shot them, which is some kind of crazy provocation. But in response, Pakistan's closed the borders, they've suspended flights, and this sort of tension between India and Pakistan does happen because they've got disputed territories in Kashmir.
Yeah.
So this is, and I mean, they have fought, I think, at least 4 wars since the end of the Second World War. But this is the speed and the ferocity of the reactions. I found a bit surprising.
And India told Pakistani nationals to get out of India within 24 hours. You know, that's a big ask. Anyway,
they've cancelled all the visas, and the other thing that people have to remember is that both India and Pakistan are nuclear powers. They both have nukes.
They do.
So, and cutting off 80% of Pakistan's water, I mean, the Pakistanis said it's an act of war, but it makes you wonder what they're going to try and do.
This is a good
one. Dam?
This is a good one, though, for Putin, isn't it? Because he kind of backs both these countries. Because India's part of BRICS and Pakistan's, you know, more under Russian influence than it is. Well, is it? I don't know. Maybe, but anyway.
No, Pakistan is very much under American influence. That's why they locked Imran Khan up. I'm gonna. Because Imran Khan wanted to take Pakistan more in the direction of Russia and China, and the Americans were like, "Nope, not happening."
So I was out one night on patrol, and I had a probationer with me who was a Sikh, right? And he was wearing a turban and everything, and we pulled the car over, and you know he saw a car. He spotted a car with a duff tail light, and he says, "Well, pull that," and I goes, "Yeah, okay, we'll pull it." And I said, "You can take the lead." So we pulled the car over, and no sooner had we stopped than the guy jumps out the car in front. And he's going, "You only pulled me over because I'm a Pakistani." And I'm like, whoa. Actually, and before I can say anything else, the Constable Sikh pipes up, "No, I pulled you over because you're a Pakistani." After that, it just went downhill. So the whole car ends up getting a thorough going over. The guy walks away with fucking 3 tickets, a charge, and a VDRS, right?
and he doesn't get to claim racism.
Yeah, he can't get to claim it, yeah. So he jumps back in the car, and I'm like, maybe you should hold back a little bit, you know, when you're dealing with, because there's a huge Pakistani community in Glasgow. Says, maybe you should hold back a little bit. And he's going, I was holding back. I'm like, whoa.
That was something with all the knife crime. I saw an interview with a member of the Sikh community, because as part of their traditions, they all carry this little ceremonial dagger.
Yeah, like we do.
And for Western, I mean, I think back in the day they would have a massive sword, but they have the traditions, and this old Sikh elder guy was like, "Look, Sikhs have carried knives around in Britain since we first got here, and you don't see us walking around stabbing anyone." So
I was on the Queen Mary 2 on my honeymoon with my good lady wife, and we had dinner one evening with the captain's table, as you do, and you get all dressed up for that. And I brought my kilt, so full gear, full kilt on, and I'm walking down, and all the Americans are like, "Oh my god," and you know the American women are going, "Oh my god, can I get my picture taken with you?" and all this, and I'm going, "Yeah." And one of them goes, "What regiment are you with?" And I goes, "I'm Scottish. I'm not in the army." And then she then one of them goes, "What's that in your sock?" And I goes, "That's my skiing do. You want to see it?" So I pulls out my skiing do, and she's going, "Oh my god, you're carrying a knife. Are you allowed to do that?" And I goes, yes I am, because it's part of my traditional dress. So you're entitled to wear it. Much like the Sikhs are with their kirpans. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Cool. Let's move on.
Oh,
that's one to watch. Let's hope that. I mean,
it doesn't like my stories.
It's great. We've got another place that World War III could break out.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right. Here we go, Ed. Here we go. I tweeted this. I had a little discussion today about things like I had a little discussion today about how quick David Atherton posted something about two cops approaching a guy who walked away from them, turned around, put his fists up, and then he tased them straight away. And I said
I saw that comment.
I said I was a bit concerned about the way that the police seem to be tasing people without regard, right? You know, straight away, because a taser's not a non-lethal weapon. It's a less lethal weapon, not non-lethal, because people die from getting.
And if
tased.
you saw the way that guy in that, in that particular video, the way that guy went down, he could easily have smacked the back of his head and he's done.
Yeah, exactly. But apart from that, people with heart conditions and stuff like that. In fact, even people without heart conditions have had cardiac arrest. So there's 18 people have died from police tasing in the UK since 2018. Did you know that? So anyway, I made a general comment. As you saw my comment, I think it was general. It wasn't specific to that incident. I just said I was concerned with the way police seem to be very quick to tase. And Pink Lady came out with a cracker. This type of attitude is why the UK is in the state it's in now. So I didn't realise I was so influential. It's my attitude that's to put the UK in the state it's in now. I don't understand
we know
that.
who to blame.
Yeah, it's me. It's me.
It's all your fault, John.
Guilty.
I did suspect everything was your fault.
Yeah, it always is, mate. Right, mate. This is one of yours. This is a fucking horror story, people. I'm sorry. Well, Beats and Tapes knows someone that died from a police taser. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah,
sorry.
Whatever happened to the first cryogenically frozen humans? Now, if you're Gen X, like me and John, you will remember lots of stories back in the 80s and 90s when this cryogenic technology first came out. And we had people that were on the verge of death that had themselves frozen or had themselves frozen just before death on the basis that they could be unfrozen at a later stage and their disease could be cured, or they just wanted to time travel into the future. What they didn't reckon on is that a few of them decomposed into a plug of fluids that was scraped off the bottom of the capsule. It's so grim. I know I shouldn't even laugh. It's really dark, but I just, yeah.
Right.
It's not. I mean, that's not the sort of journey into the future that I think they were planning on.
So my interest was piqued. So I did a little bit of research. The first person to be cryogenically frozen was Dr. James Bedford, the 73-year-old psychology professor who died of kidney cancer on January the 12th, 1967. Bedford's body was preserved within hours of his legal death by a team from the Cryonics Society of California. I don't like that term, legal death. So he probably wasn't actually dead when they started freezing him. They used a primitive cryoprotectant solution, 15% dimethyl sulfoxide and 85% Ringles. Well, Ringles is just salt water, and then cooled it in liquid nitrogen. Although the preservation methods were crude by modern standards, lacking advanced cryoprotectants and vitrification, Bedford's body was kept at low temperatures continuously and remains in cryogenic storage to this day, currently at the Alcor Life Extension Foundation in Arizona. When Bedford's body was examined in 1991, so that's 36 years ago? 34 years ago, yeah. After 24 years in storage, it was found to be preserved but showed significant damage. Skin was discoloured, frozen blood had leaked from his mouth and nose. Despite these issues, he is unique among early cryonics patients in that his body was never allowed to thaw, making him the only person from the first era of cryonics still preserved. Now, that he was examined 31 years ago. Imagine what state he's in now.
You wouldn't, I mean...
All the rest... all the rest have been thawed out and subsequently buried. Some of them were decapitated. And their head was taken for neural preservation.
Oh, right. So they wake up as a brain in a jar in the year 25 27.
Exactly like this episode. Sorry, Futurama.
Yeah, it's this whole notion of wanting to cryogenically freeze yourself to preserve yourself for the future. That to me just suggests that you need to really deal with the concept of life and death somehow.
Ben wants this to happen.
Well, the thing is that what if by doing that you actually somehow prevent your consciousness from returning to the source, or
that was my thought.
You interrupt the natural cycle, and the natural chain of events. I just don't think that is ever going to lead anywhere good.
Yeah, no, I think I had that thought as well. I thought, what if that doesn't let you? What if it hangs up because your body is narcissism, DW, and Ben is as you know, Ben is a narcissist. But he knows that. He knows I call him that. But yeah, what happens if it just hangs onto your soul or consciousness or whatever you want to call it?
Well, it's like that thing in Demolition Man where Sylvester Stallone gets taken out of Ice Cube form.
Yeah.
I think they're sitting around. It's when they go to Taco Bell or Pizza Hut, or depending on which version of the film you watch.
Taco Bell.
I think it was called Pizza Hut. Yeah, it was Taco Bell in the original, but for the European market, they changed it to Pizza Hut because there was no Taco Bell here. But he actually says they say to him, "Oh no, you didn't remember anything." He's like, "Oh yes, I did. I was aware of everything that was going on." So, yeah, I don't know. I think playing God or trying to interrupt Mother Nature like that is probably not going to lead to good things.
Yeah. I think it could be very, very dodgy. Very, very dodgy. Right, moving on. World Economic Forum opens new probe into founder Klaus Schwab. And there's no aliens involved here, but one of yours, Ed?
Yes. Well, this is rather satisfying because although he's only been replaced with someone that looks even more creepy, but Schwab is out. But it's not just some of the allegations are really serious. I mean, him and his wife misusing donor money to fund their own extravagant lifestyles, and at the same time as preaching to everyone that you'll own nothing and be happy and eat bugs, they're living the life of Riley. And there's also been allegations of sexual misconduct and poor treatment of members of staff. I mean, there was a story that came out a few years ago about Klaus Schwab was away on business or something, and someone parked in his parking spot, and he hit the roof. He was literally trying to get this person fired and went absolutely postal, and had to be talked down and calmed down by people. And I just thought it's one of those innocuous little stories that is so innocuous that it's probably true. And it just kind of shows you the sort of person that we're dealing with. I mean, this is the thing about it, and it's the same with all these environmental people. It's like
Vince.
Yeah, absolutely, and also these actors, Leonardo DiCaprio, who jets around the world telling everyone we have to consume less, and then goes off on holiday on a gigantic yacht.
Yeah.
Or even closer to home, the Department for Energy and Climate Change, or Net Zero, or whatever the hell it's called here, I've also been accused of just taking the absolute piss.
Yeah.
With their air miles.
Yeah.
I mean, Ed Miliband flew from London to Scotland, 800 miles in a plane that he could easily have taken on a nice environmentally friendly train. And it's just a hypocrisy. And it's the same with the World Economic Forum. And I don't think that the new interim chairman is going to be any better, because he's the creepy ex-chairman of Nestle that said that water wasn't a human right. But it just goes to show you just how kind of corrupt and just they're not good people. And they're the ones that are trying to moralize to the rest of us, saying that we have to cut down on air travel and we have to eat bugs. And it's just, I don't know. I can't stand a hypocrite.
Yeah. Speaking of hypocrites, how about Germany? That's one of yours as well.
This is the ongoing Russophobia that I just think is so spiteful and petty and ahistorical. Because if it wasn't for the Russians, the Allies would not have won the Second World War. It's as simple as that. It was the Russians that got to Berlin, and if it hadn't been for the Russians on the Eastern Front destroying most of Hitler's armies, there would have been far too many Germans in the West for the Normandy landings to have done anything at all.
Yeah.
And so despite all of the war and stuff, especially that this whole full-scale unprovoked invasion of Ukraine is historical nonsense to the point that it really irritates me when I have to listen to people spout that bollocks, because that's not what happened. It was very much provoked, and it absolutely wasn't full-scale.
Guess what I found?
What?
I found my video. The incredible story of how Ukraine became a vassal state.
Oh, great.
So I shall re-release it.
Yeah, but I think, and for the German parliament, Germany particularly should be eating a bit more humble pie about all of this, because they were the ones that started the Second World War. They were the ones that German armies killed 30, 40 million Russians.
27 million,
the siege of Leningrad and Stalingrad, and what they did in Kursk. I think the Germans need to wind their necks in, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't think, no saying Germans, let's say German politicians, because I can't imagine that the vast majority of Germans are okay with this at all.
No, I don't think
just for the record. But the German political class, they're just as abhorrent as the British political class and the Dutch political class and the Belgian political class.
Yeah. I was listening to what's his name, General McGregor, the other day, and he was talking about after the
Colonel
McGregor, and after they had finished with Iraq and all that, and they were trying to sort. No, it wasn't then. It was after they'd finished in Yugoslavia, right? And they were trying to sort out the new boundaries and things, and he was part of that team. And people were saying, well, they're all Slavic, so it doesn't really matter. They're all the same. And McGregor's saying, well, they're not really, because they don't think that, so surely they should have some kind of say in what their country should be. And the Norwegian guys, but they're just Slavs, they're all the same. And he goes, well, you're Norwegian. Why are you in Sweden, separate countries? You're just the same. He's going, no, Norwegians are very different from Swedish people. And he's got a point, But he's got, McGregor had a point.
And he absolutely does. And McGregor is someone that I listen to a lot. And he talks in a huge amount of sense. And if Trump had any sense, he would have put McGregor in his government. But I can't imagine.
We did it the first time.
But I can't imagine Colonel McGregor being able to get through his Senate confirmation hearings.
I think. He was in the first time, right? I think the problem is that he tells it too straight.
Yeah,
he's not diplomatic enough, and I think he's effectively been ousted or not selected this time because of the neocons around him.
I mean, what you were saying about they're only Slavs, it actually demonstrates precisely why most Western countries, particularly Western Europe, are quite happy for the Russians and Ukrainians to kill each other, because they're all just Slavs. And how is that not racism? How is that not?
Of course it is.
Exactly. How is it? It's no different from saying, oh, we should just let all the Houthis and the Hutus and the Tutsis in Rwanda and Burundi just murder each other because they're all just blacks or whatever. I mean, there's
actually,
no difference.
I just wrote an article today for the website, which you can go and read if you wish at sergeantgrumpy.com. But I wrote an article today on the unsung genocide that's still occurring in Central Africa. 70 in February 2025, 70 Christian Protestants were taken from their village to a church, and they were later all found there beheaded. And the Islamic militia in the area claimed they did it. And there's no reason to disbelieve them. Now, why? I never saw that in the news. Did you? You had to go and dig for it. The only reason I found that was because I was digging through African news. But that's horrible. I mean, every one of them, women, children, and men, were beheaded. That's just
absolutely.
It's just disgusting. And yet, this is going on an almost daily basis in Africa, and nobody's doing anything about it.
Certain parts of Africa, there are some countries. I mean, obviously, Africa's an enormous place.
Yes, I'm talking about countries. I'm talking about Central Africa, right, where this is occurring on an almost daily basis. Nigeria, Central African Republic.
Well, Nigeria technically is West Africa.
Well, it's happening in Nigeria as well, and in the Congo. So it's
there's
happening.
Issues between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo for sure, and there's a constant back and forth of.
But this seems to be mainly religiously based, which is shocking. Shocking.
But, I mean, the stuff in West Africa, like Nigeria, you got Boko Haram, and a lot of that. But then there's an awful lot of Western meddling. Put it that way. It's one of the reasons that people like Ibrahim Traore are kicking the Westerners out as much as possible.
And one of those Western meddlers is the UK.
Oh, Macron. And the UK. But the French and the British have always been up to their eyeballs in Africa. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Right.
Okay, moving on. Pedro Pascal calls J.K. Rowling a heinous loser. I'd love to be a heinous loser of that scale. I mean...
well, I didn't realize until a couple of hours ago that Pedro Pascal has a brother who he calls his sister. So it's that whole trans issue, I guess, is fairly close to him. And the fact that everybody, I mean, it's pick on J.K. Rowling season. It's a number of... the worst ones are the Harry Potter actors, because they wouldn't even have their careers if it wasn't for J.K. Rowling and her stories, and to turn on her the way they did. For actually just, I don't agree with everything that J.K. Rowling says. There's certain issues that I completely disagree with her on.
Yeah.
But the fact is that she has done a huge amount to stand up for women's rights. And whatever you think of the Supreme Court judgment, all of that stuff. She personally funded a rape crisis centre in Scotland because there wasn't one that was exclusively for women. And to try and say that a women's rape crisis centre has to accept trans women, i.e., men, there are certain things that's a step too far. And I lionize her as an author. I think the Harry Potter series of books are utterly amazing. And I think those stories are different from her and her as a person and her political views. But the way that so much of that community directs so much hatred towards her for essentially sticking up for women, and it's all men. It's essentially men trying to impose themselves into women's spaces and women saying no, and they don't like it.
It really is like caring the community gone wrong, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
absolutely.
Nick Torridis asked, who the hell is Pedro Pascal? He was in
he
something.
Is an actor. He
plays pretend for a living.
He was in the first time I saw him was in Game of Thrones. He plays Prince Martell of Dorne.
Oh
who
yeah, right.
is
Yeah, the gay guy.
killed horribly. Yeah, well, no, he's kind of bisexual because he was
Okay.
he played both sides of the fence.
Shoot me down.
And he also had one of the most gruesome deaths of anyone in Game of Thrones because he pretty much had his skull popped by
by the mountain.
Gregor Clegane.
By the mountain, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And also Pedro Pascal, he was Mandalorian.
Oh, was he?
Was he the man? I think he was Mandalorian.
Who cares? Because the guy's not mask. He could have been anybody.
Yeah, I mean he's been in some stuff.
It's like, you're a shit actor. Let's put you in a complete mask and make sure you never take your helmet off. Right. Okay. Moving on. This is one of yours, and I'm not even getting involved here. This is one of yours. On you go.
Yeah, this one is Health Ranger. He's actually, the thing about this is he's a trained chemist and he has an actual proper lab that is ISO accredited, and this is whether you choose to believe it, but apparently Dr. Jane Ruby sent him some samples of stuff that had come out of the sky in Florida, and he cultured the samples, and he's been posting on X what he's been finding, pictures, and he's essentially been letting things grow. And the thing that I like about him is that he's a proper scientist. So he's not trying to claim he's seeing anything he's not seeing. He's essentially describing what he's seeing under the microscope, and it's pretty unpleasant. So wherever this stuff came from, you would not want to be breathing it in. But if you're interested in this kind of thing, then go to the Health Rangers Twitter profile, and you'll see a whole load more pictures and stuff. And people should make up their own minds about it.
Yeah, so the question is that if we are being poisoned from the skies, how do the people doing the poisoning avoid getting poisoned?
Well, don't forget that they allowed lead in petrol for decades, knowing what effect it would have. So to me, it's not an argument that holds water, because we've got plenty of examples in history of DDT is another good example, where something was just sprayed with gay abandon and then turned out later that it's completely toxic.
DDT's still up for grabs. It's not necessarily as toxic as they made out to be. But anyway, let's move on. Shall we?
Mm-hmm.
So India Willoughby here.
I actually thought you were going to take that. I didn't think you were going to include that one.
Oh, India here's made a quite sweeping statement in the face of a recent legal ruling in the UK. She's been, shall we say, melting down every day, and said, fairly confident I'd pass a cheek swab test, but if they asked me to have a period, I'd be sunk. Well, I don't think your grasp of biology is quite up there, Jonathan, because a cheek swab test is going to check for your DNA, and your DNA is going to come up XY, because you are XY. And
I
you
just
can't
think
hide that.
It's in a way, it's kind of sad that this meltdown is happening completely in public, and also because he takes himself so seriously. And I'm sorry, I can't call him a she. I can't. I know I'm misgendering him, but he's probably not listening anyway.
Well, you're not, according to the UK legal ruling now.
Well,
you're actually
precisely.
not. So,
and I don't know. I just find him really creepy. And
right. It's 22:30, and we've still got something like 15 slides to go. So,
we've still got half an hour.
Yeah. Okay.
Is anyone still awake?
Yeah.
Did someone say something in chat and let us know you're
no, they're still there. They're still there. Still got 17 viewers. Excuse me. Meghan Markle says she experiences joy every day by putting flower petals on her food. I started putting them on salads. I started putting them on scrambled eggs. What the actual fuck is this woman on? Well, flower petals for one, but
I mean, I've been in a relationship with a crazy person, and she, by comparison, Megan makes my ex look completely sane and normal. I mean, you only have to. How could Harry even end up with her? But then I ended up with my ex, so these things do happen. But just how, I don't get it. I really don't. I don't understand these people.
Right. Okay. Let's move on. The teens. Do you remember this? The teens that were expelled from school in New Zealand for wearing blackface have now won a $1 million payout after proving it was an acne mask. I mean, what the freak?
Yeah. It's just...
It's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah, but New Zealand, I mean, the Five Eyes particularly, if you look at Canada, Australia, Britain, America under Biden, maybe a bit less under Trump, but particularly the Commonwealth countries, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, UK. I mean, it's next level crazy. The whole thing is just, and they're the ones that are pushing all of these gender critical or gender bender, whatever it is, and all of the anti-racism, and they're trying to destroy their own culture. And it's
crazy.
I mean,
it's crazy.
I'm glad those lads have got a massive payout, because $1 million is going to pay for an awful lot of acne cream. Talking about massive payouts, right? Would you rather have $30 million or 30 million loyal friends? And this Wavy Pelly here has nailed it. What the fuck am I going to do with 30 million friends? Exactly. You couldn't have 30 million friends. You couldn't. No, you can't. Yeah, I think not the whole concept of 30 million loyal friends. Yeah, they reckon if the maximum is about 150. If you think you've got more than 150 friends, you're probably mistaken. In fact, if you think you've even got 150 friends, you're probably mistaken. I certainly don't. I don't think I've got any friends really. I've got people that put up with me. I'm sure you've got some friends. I've got people that put up with me, and that's about it. Right, moving on. That's because you're Scottish. Yeah, it's not your fault. Well, yeah. And the thing is that I've got a handful of people that I would call genuine friends. Yeah. And I have a lot of acquaintances, and people that I know. But actually, the number of people that I would trust to pour my heart out to or whatever is very small. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Let's move. Well, instead of insulting Americans today, we're going to insult Africans. So the African Hub says, engineers, explain this to us. I take it he just wants to go straight down the hill. He wants the road to go straight down and up the hill. Doesn't grasp the concept. Yeah. Doesn't grasp the concept that it makes it a lot easier if you walk sideways. This Twitter account, I follow it, and it does actually put out some interesting stuff, but this was a particularly, just go and study some engineering and learn about gravity and learn about inclines and all that kind of thing, and then come back, because this is how you build a road up a hill. Indeed. That's simple. Right. It's like, caption this. Oh. This is such a sycophantic photograph. It's like, who's getting it and who's taking it tonight? Well, I can't work out what's more creepy, the way that Lineker and Campbell are looking at each other. I know. Or the way that Rory Stewart is looking at the camera.
Yeah.
Or Campbell's like, I've just realised that Lineker is looking at Campbell. Campbell is looking at Stewart, and Stewart is looking at the camera with this. He's almost
maniacal.
It's like Willem Dafoe in the Spider-Man movies, just before he turns into the Green Goblin.
Yeah,
it's that kind of crazy eyes, and Lineker just
Black Gary,
just creepy.
Black Gary.
Yeah. Yeah, another poor soul that was bullied for racism when he was at school because he was so black.
And we've only got 4 slides left. Lineker, Black Gary soldier. We've been going on about Lineker for ages. In fact, Ben actually wrote a song called Black Gary. Right, here we go. David Lammy. This was the last Pope, right? This tweet from the BBC is crass and unnecessary. Do you really need silly innuendo about the race of the next Pope? Now, as far as I can make out, this is a 100% genuine tweet that Lammy made. So this was during the election of Pope Francis, I believe. The chimney of the Sistine Chapel as conclave votes for a Pope. Will the smoke be black or white? And Lammy thought it referred to the race.
Which basically tells you everything you need to know about Lammy. Yeah. I mean, not just the fact that he's not the brightest tool in the box, the sharpest tool in the box, but also that everything comes down to race. Yep. And I know someone who knows Lammy from early in his career who confirmed all of my suspicions about him essentially being, he plays the race card. That's what he does.
Yeah, yeah.
But this also just demonstrates, look, this guy is the foreign secretary, and he clearly didn't know. When was this? I don't know when this tweet was posted. But
it was the election of what's his name? It was 2013.
But still, so Lammy's gone through his whole career in politics, and he's now foreign secretary, and he didn't know that this is how they choose the Pope. I mean, the amount that Lammy doesn't know is frightening, especially because he's foreign secretary.
Yeah, indeed. My husband asked me why I speak so softly in the house. I said I was afraid of Mark Zuckerberg. I was afraid Mark Zuckerberg was listening. He laughed. I laughed. Alexa laughed. Siri laughed. The Tesla laughed. Oh, that's a tremendous. Yeah.
But that's, I mean,
they do listen to you. Your phone listens to you. I mean, look at the adverts. Look at the adverts.
But the scary one, but the really scary one is when you don't even say out loud to anyone that you're actually wanting to buy something, and then you see adverts start popping up for it on social media. Particularly Facebook is the worst.
Although you've never searched for it and you've never verbalized.
You've never searched for it. You've literally just had thought, I need to buy a new ladder. And suddenly you'll see ladder adverts on Facebook. And now, guaranteed, I'm going to log on to Facebook tomorrow to check on birthdays, and I'm going to see adverts for ladders.
But you probably said something like, I need to reach that, and I can't quite get there.
But it's also, now we're into the realm of the Tesla. Oh, you know what I found out? What? All of that, this whole full self-driving thing that you can have in these Teslas. I'm not even sure it works in the UK. $99 a month. In addition,
you got to pay for it.
In addition to spending all of this money on this car, there are certain features in the car that you have to have on a monthly subscription, and it's not like a tenner a month, $99 a month. So you've already bought the car, and you either bought it on finance or you paid it off. And if you paid it off, then $99 a month is probably not such a big deal. But if you're paying it off on finance or you've leased the bloody thing, it's like, you can have full self-drive. It's just going to cost you $100 a month.
Do you watch Black Mirror?
I I've watched a few episodes of it, and
You watched it? Have you
didn't
watched
really
the
get on with
latest
them.
one?
No,
So the
I started at the beginning.
if anyone wants to not have spoilers, don't listen. But I watched this one in the latest series, the first one, I think. And this woman has a brain injury and part of her brain dies, or she's a tumor or something. They cut it out and they replace it with circuitry, right? And basically what happens is that they feed it in from the cloud, right? Basically through Wi-Fi, from the cloud. So our brain, this part of the brain that was removed, is now has its feed coming from the cloud, and that's fine initially, and then she finds she's sleeping more, and they said, well, we put you into sleep mode for longer to take the load off the servers. Right, and then she starts sleeping longer. And they said, well, we've got a new product now, but if you want to upgrade, it's only like, an extra $300 a month, and you can get the upgrade. And then she starts producing adverts involuntarily and unknown to her. She starts speaking adverts. And they said, well, if you upgrade, you won't be speaking adverts. And she's a teacher. And that gets her into trouble at work, obviously, because she starts talking adverts while she's teaching, and the kids go home and say, the teacher said I should try a Christian therapist, So basically, she ends up spending like $1,000 a month to get enhanced service. Oh, and she can only, if she goes outside the zone that the thing's active in, like your cell phone. She goes outside the zone, she turns off. So it's scary, but I can see it happening,
Well, if Musk is quite happy to have a monthly subscription for full self-driving in the Tesla, then
for Neural,
you don't even want to think about what he's going to do with Neuralink.
Yeah,
I mean, and also, I mean, it's one thing to have a disabled person and stick a chip in their brain and suddenly they can use their legs or they can see or communicate. I mean, if we're talking about making disabled people's lives easier, and it's not based on some sort of monthly subscription where you get upgrades so your legs work kind of more than 5 days a week.
I want to run like Steve Austin.
Well, yeah, you get the extra speed boost on the legs or whatever it is. I just think that there's a difference between helping people and making money. They're not the same thing.
They are not the same thing. Yeah,
but yeah. So I don't know, $99 for full Tesla self-driving. And Musk tweeted it out, and it's like, oh, it's only $3.33 a month. And I was like, oh yeah, 33. There we go.
Oh, 33 a month? No,
$3.33 a month a day.
A day, right? Yeah. Aye, okay. Yeah, less than the price of a cup of coffee. And speaking of coffee, if you ever wanted to give me a donation, you could drop me a donation at ko-fi.com, as you see on the screen right there. Our good friend Nick Doridis did one yesterday. So, but having said that, if you want to give me a donation, maybe you should wait till next week, because next week it's May. And what happens in May? What happens in May, Ed? What famous person was born in May? Don't you dare say George Clooney.
You, John.
Thank you, Ed. Right.
It's his birthday next week, people. So please, some donations would be nice. Right. Send him some flowers or some chocolate or something.
No, just send cash. Not that one.
We just need cash. I know a lot of people want to send blankets or water. Just send your cash.
There you go. Right. So pure love on the vertical chat. Good to see you. Good to see you, pure love. Most of the stuff happens on the horizontal chat, which is a different stream, but if you're on a phone, the vertical's the way to go. Right. Second last slide. Tired of being fat and ugly? Just be ugly. That's a great advert for a gym, isn't it? I think it might be Norway.no. And if you look at
Yep.
if you look underneath it, it looks like some kind of Norwegian language or Scandinavian language.
But why would was that sign translated?
You know what? I think it's just
Although
Norwegians.
I think
it's just a Norwegian.
Yeah, well, it's the kind of thing. It's actually the kind of thing the Dutch would do because they all speak English. So
yeah.
The Dutch they love using English words in their marketing and stuff like that. And it's just like there's a perfectly good Dutch word for it, but they'll specifically choose the English word.
It's like you go to Sweden, they all speak English at you. You can't practice Sweden and Swedish. No, you can't practice Swedish and Sweden because they all want to speak English.
It's one of the things that I find difficult learning Dutch. Absolutely, because if you go to Holland and you start speaking Dutch to someone and they get a hint that you're English, they'll start talking to English back to you. So I get into this funny thing because I'm going over to Holland, I want to practice my Dutch. So they'll talk English to me and I just talk Dutch back to them. But it's the same at home because if you listen to the family conversation around the dinner table, when I'm with my mum and my stepdad, we slip in. I go back and forwards between English and Dutch because if I don't know the word in Dutch, I just use the English word.
Yeah. Right. So the last slide is a blast from the past. Literally a blast from the past. A rare photo of a McDonald's staff member collecting apple pie filling in the 1980s. Do you remember McDonald's apple pies? Do they still do them? Whoa, Ed's had enough. He's gone. If you don't want to be fat, stop eating. You're right, soldier. You're right, mate. That's exactly what happened. It looks like Ed's. My birthday's next. My birthday's Monday the 5th. Fluffy. That's when it is. So. I don't know what's happened to Ed. Well, our little chum has disappeared. That's strange. I don't know what he's done. He still seems to be well, I don't know if he's transmitting, but anyway, you know what? It's been a great show. I think. I've had a laugh, and I hope you have too. Oh, he's back. He's back. I was just about to sign off. What happened, Ed? Did you stumble? What? No, you're muted, mate.
There you go. My laptop decided it was going to try and put it.
Oh, your laptop went to sleep?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. So your laptop decided
that it's trying to put itself to sleep.
You spoke for too long.
Well, for some reason, the stupid Windows power settings, I have to sit here, keep constantly moving the mouse around, and if I don't, it starts locking up and then the network shuts down. It's just a pain in the arsehole.
I just turn power management to off. I don't allow it to power manage anything. I just run it full board.
I did, and I've missed a bloody setting somewhere.
Ah, right. Okay.
Right, so the rare photo of McDonald's staff member collecting apple pie filling in the 1980s. That's so true. I remember when there was one time we came over to see my dad, who'd come back to the UK to see his parents, and we met up in London. And McDonald's in Holland is really expensive, and it wasn't something that we had very frequently. But my dad took us to McDonald's for dinner. And it was back in the day when they had the little kids' Happy Meals came in a plastic spaceship.
Yeah.
And I swear to God, it's one of the coolest things I'd ever seen when I was about 12 or 13. And I had an apple pie and I nearly burnt my face off.
I know, you couldn't eat for a week after it.
No. And what's worse is if you bite into it and then you get a dribble of it that goes under your t-shirt and starts burning its way down your chest. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now when you get one, they're pretty much lukewarm.
Oh, are they? Do they not do that anymore? Do they still do apple pies?
I think so.
All right.
I'm pretty sure they do.
I haven't.
I do have.
Anything like
I do have one last one. that popped up on my Twitter. We don't have a slide for it, obviously, but this is a post from a teacher saying, "My high achievers are starting to notice their hard work doesn't matter." 6th grade teacher in an SBG district, I think it's in America. We're not allowed to take off any points for late work, and because creativity/visual appeal on projects isn't a standard of mine, I'm not allowed to grade it. Meaning one kid has a poster with nothing but some words written in pencil, gets the same exact grade as the kids who went above and beyond. They've started to notice that the kids who turn things in late face no consequences, and the kids who do the bare minimum get the same grade as them. Yeah. One of them said to my face, how is it fair? He turned his project in late with nothing but pencil on his poster, but mine is on time and creative, but we get the same grade. I didn't know how to respond appropriately, so I asked my admin what I should say, and they told me, tell them that life isn't fair. So now I have kids catching on to this, refusing to work because they now know they can do it whenever they want with no consequences. And then when they do work, they do the bare minimum, because why would you work harder for the same amount of credit? Honestly, I can't blame them. I would do the exact same thing if I was in 6th grade now. I don't know how to solve the problem, because if it's not a standard, it can't be graded. This is how we end up with idiocracy. You know that?
Yeah, as somebody posted something the other day saying this all started in the 80s. You know, when you started getting a medal for everything, and the 80s wasn't like that when I was at school. You know, if you were crap at something, you were told you were crap at something. And I remember my chemistry teacher telling me that I would never amount to anything because I never did any chemistry homework. And it really pissed him off when I got an A in chemistry.
I had some really difficult teachers, but the thing is, with a good teacher was never your friend, but a good teacher would recognize. I mean, good teachers would understand the individual student and somehow manage to get through to them and push them, because the whole point of being a teacher is you push the students. If everything is easy to achieve, then nothing is worth anything. And frankly, this is one of the things that particularly the Russians, Chinese, Koreans, Asians, particularly. I mean, there was one, I was reading a story about it earlier in the week, that there's a Chinese, I can't remember what type of school it is, but they have 1,700 places available in a year, and they get 70,000 applicants. And these kids have to work. They have to push themselves rather than just getting a like we do in Western schools. I mean, you see it happening in the UK and US, where everybody just gets a medal for turning up.
Yeah.
We're not doing the kids any favors at all. That's not. I mean, life is competitive. Life is tough, and kids have to. I mean, ideally, if you're going to raise your kids, they need to be brought up to be able to deal with that competitiveness and toughness, and having a bit of a thick skin and being able to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's these little wankers that don't know how to lose, that end up gluing their faces to roads.
Oh, anyway.
So that was the last one I spotted.
Yeah, and I think that's a fairly astute observation, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh. And we're nearly on the 2-hour mark, so I think we've done well.
Yeah, I think we've done all right.
And it's a good show. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
As much as
plans to stream to Rumble? Somebody on Twitter says, "Do you guys have any plans to stream to Rumble?"
Maybe we should stream to Rumble, because there are some people that just despise YouTube. And I don't think you'd necessarily be diluting the audience that much. And you might get...
You wouldn't be diluting
I don't know,
the
show might get more traction on Rumble than it does on YouTube.
But, I mean, Rumble's just... From a creator point of view, it's just a waste of time, you know?
Fair play.
Unless people are going to donate more on Rumble, you know. I don't need a producer. I could stream to Rumble. I've done it before. We used to do it. But it's just I'm getting to the limit of my bandwidth as well, because I'm streaming twice at the moment. I'm streaming to both YouTube, horizontal and vertical.
That's a fair point.
Plus, I'm also streaming to you because you're getting, there's a connection to you as well. So if you've got 6,000 kilobytes and YouTube's got 8,000 and YouTube's got another 4,000, we're getting to the point where I've only got a 20 meg upload,
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's a fair point. I hadn't thought of that.
But
and also,
there's a point. Starlink is now free for the hardware in the UK, and 75 quid a month.
Interesting.
It used to cost 500 quid for the hardware. Then it came down to 300 quid. Now apparently it's zero down and 75 quid a month for the service.
Wow.
Which isn't bad because it's a fast service.
And it's also a service you can take with you, I think.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, I mean, you can move. Yeah.
That might be something to think about. Although, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think we're done. We can stick a fork in that one.
I think we can. It's been great. I've enjoyed it. I've had a great time. I've had suitably relaxed and refreshed with my little beers, and
it's always cathartic. I feel like doing the all in and the kung fu is my weekly catharsis. The kung fu is the physical catharsis, and the all in is the mental catharsis, because I get to rant a little bit about the insanity of the week, and it always makes me feel better.
Yeah, everybody have a great weekend, and as always, it's been great for you.